Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy is one of the greatest achievements in comic book movie history. I've always liked Batman Begins, and seeing The Dark Knight Rises in theaters as a 12-year-old was life-changing, but the one that rises above them all for me is The Dark Knight. It's not just one of the best superhero films ever made, it's one of the greatest films of the 21st century that has defined what my generation thinks of when they think of superhero movies. The film made people take comic book films seriously and was an incredible film in its own right. I adore The Dark Knight. It's one of those movies that anytime it was on, I would instantly drop whatever I was doing and lock in. Christopher Nolan's thrilling direction, some legendary performances, and its sharp layered plotting makes it a true classic, and its influence speaks for itself. And it's so quotable, seriously. How many movies from the last few years can you pull 10 lines from off the top of your head? I can't quote a single line from the past few MCU movies, but I have this film's entire script engraved into my brain. I'm so nostalgic for its sequel, The Dark Knight Rises, as well. I've watched it so many times, and I have a blast every time I get to watch through the entire trilogy. Add on top of that I'm a huge Batman fan, he's my GOAT second only to Spidey, and you have the recipe for a legendary trilogy. And as much as I adore this trilogy, I've actually never owned a good figure of Christian Bale's Batman from these movies. For a film series that means so much to me, it feels like a huge blind spot in my collection. I've never picked up the original Mafex release due to terrible QC issues, and I've just never gotten around to getting the 3.0. I got to mess around with a friend's SH Figuarts version, and I liked it, but none of these figures ever lived up to what I truly wanted from an import Nolan Batman. That is, until I heard rumblings of a new figure line from a company called InArt. Photos started popping up online of a Dark Knight Rises Batman figure from a new company called InArt, and at first glance, this figure looked unbelievable. InArt is a relatively new toy brand launched in 2022 under parent company Queen Studios. They primarily focus on hyper-realistic licensed figures with crazy articulated sculpts in the 1/6 scale. So when images of this Dark Knight Rises Batman started showing up, the internet kinda exploded. I honestly thought it was a Hot Toys or Sideshow release. When I heard this was a 1/12 scale figure, I couldn't believe it. I highly doubted something that looked this detailed could exist at 6 inches tall, so I had to see for myself. I pre-ordered mine back in March, and now that it's finally in hand, I'm excited to dive into what might be the most ambitious and detailed 1/12 scale figure release I've seen in a long time. Now that I've had some time to mess around with it and get a feel for the sculpt, articulation, and accessories, this InArt Batman is actually a game changer. The feeling I get handling this figure for the first time is the same feeling I get when I handle a Hot Toy, for better and worse, but it's unreal. I usually don't care about the packaging of these import figures. If it's done well, it's nice, but majority of the time I just want to get the figure out as soon as possible. For this Batman, however, InArt really made a great first impression for me. Multiple layers of packaging, all beautifully designed, really sell this as a premium product. This could never be on the shelves of a Target. You have to actively seek this figure out. Once he's free from his box, the first impression is just next level. The entire figure has a gorgeous matte finish. These product photos weren't lying, he genuinely looks that good. If his armor had a shiny plastic look, it could have ruined the entire figure. But thankfully, all the details look exactly how they should here. Parts of his armor are done with a nice flat finish, but other segments are more reflective and detailed perfectly. Just look at this section, there are so many sculpted details, it's insane. The layers just keep going, it looks like real armor someone could wear. All of these bumps on his hands and the leathery look on his boots, it is incredible. And they didn't cheap out on the paint either. Things that need more dry brushing and a touch of silver are painted expertly. As I write this, I'm struggling to find a detail that went untouched. Coming from past Batman or other live-action characters, there's just no comparison in the sculpt department at this scale. The articulation is a different story. Going into this, I expected a mini Hot Toy, and with that expectation is an understanding that his articulation just won't be superposable. The downside of having all of this incredible sculpting is it definitely gets in the way of posing. He has a slight ab crunch, but what is really cool about it is you can actually see the side panels on his body move with his crunch. It's just a sick visual. There is a waist joint, but it's so tight that I really don't want to push it. His arms have a good range at the shoulder, and these shoulder pads are on their own joints, so they are easy to get out of the way when you need to move his arms. The elbows are decent, they go in a good amount. His legs move up into the side, but thanks to his sculpted cheeks, they aren't moving backwards one bit, which actually turned out to be more of an issue than I would have initially thought. I will say it again in this video, but this guy is at his best when he's standing in cool vanilla poses. But if you wanted Mafex level articulation out of this guy, it's not happening. Thankfully, his head and neck have great range, and outside of the arms, this feels like the most important part of this figure to be articulated. I need this dude looking down from a rooftop and brooding at all times, so him being able to look up and down like this feels essential. His wrists and ankles are the usual import style and work well enough. The accessories this figure comes with are terrific. He comes with so many hands, and the cool thing about them is if you check the instructions, they actually specify which hands are for what accessory. It's also helpful to know what hand is the Batarang holding hand, and speaking of Batarangs, these are fantastic. They have the shiny paint they need, but also have this sculpted detail for where they're supposed to fold in half for storage in the movies, which they obviously don't at this scale, but it's a cool detail to have. He comes packaged with his EMP rifle, as well as his sticky bomb launcher and grapple gun, which all look great. If you got the deluxe version like I did, he comes with this stand, which is solid enough. The deluxe also comes with this Bruce Wayne head sculpt, which, if you're going to buy this figure, just buy the deluxe. The Bruce head feels so important that I can't believe InArt would lock it behind the deluxe pricing bracket. The sculpt is out of this world. I seriously don't know if I've ever seen a better head sculpt on a 1/12 scale figure before. The details are great on these mouthpieces for the cowl too, although at first I didn't really see much of a difference between the faceplates, and I honestly still don't. It's good to have options, but I really wish one of these was a yelling face, because Bale does that a lot in his trilogy.
I swear to God. Swear to me!
It feels like a big missed opportunity. The accessory that's most important, however, is the cape he comes with. When you first open the figure, his cape isn't on, and frankly, that worried me a lot initially. Batman's cape is essential to his silhouette, and I need it to be attached to his body at all times. I'm never going to shoot this guy without a cape. A massive flaw with this figure is the lack of a wire in the cape. When posing this figure without the wire, it's hard to really sell the movement of the character. The cape is almost a character within itself. The only upside of this wireless cape is that it hangs off his shoulders perfectly and looks great if you want his cape flowing straight down. When he's in vanilla poses, this figure can do no wrong. He's honestly perfect from an aesthetic standpoint if you put him in a display case and never touch him. Just like Hot Toys. What's up guys, it's Finn. I'm about to give you guys a little quick tutorial on how to get some of the rain shots that you've been seeing in my video using this guy. So grab whatever figure you have on hand, grab your camera, and grab the following supplies, and I'm going to show you guys how you can do these yourself. So to really capture rain in a cool way, here's what you're going to need to use. You're going to need to grab your figure of choice and any diorama pieces that you have laying around that you want to use. You're going to need to grab some lights. Honestly, they don't need to be high tech. They just need to be bright. And the last essential piece you need is a spray bottle. It can be any type of spray bottle as long as you can spray water out of it. And if you got extra funds, some atmosphere aerosol or a portable steamer to be able to add a little bit of extra fog to the shot. To make the rain really pop, I totally recommend using a dark black background. Grab whatever small light you have and place that in the background of your shot facing towards where your figure is going to go. Adjust all the diorama pieces to your liking and frame it up in the shot. I would definitely recommend moving some lighting to be able to still illuminate the front of the figure unless you're going for a total silhouette look. If you got smaller lights, position those out of the way to still hit the figure with some colored light, but to not totally drown it out. Finish framing up your shot so that the figure is in the exact position that you want him to be for the finished product. Do your focusing, make sure that he looks good. Now here's where we get technical. I would recommend a very, very high shutter speed, but it depends on what you want the rain to look like. So if you want it to look more like snow or like little sparkles and speckles and dots, then I would go with a very high, fast shutter speed. But if you want it to look more like streaks and rain and look a little blurrier, then I would recommend a lower shutter speed. Crank up your ISO to about 800, 1000, depending on how much light you have and depending on what you want your shutter speed to be. I set my aperture at 5.6 there to make sure that I get a lot of the details, but that it's not photographing all of the background. And then I crank my shutter speed up to 250 so I can really capture the rain in motion. And now here's where we're going to add the water droplets. So you're going to want to grab your water spray bottle. I'm going to put my hand on the shutter of my camera. I'm going to start up high, raise my water bottle over the figure. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start holding down the shutter, and then I'm going to spray some water. The higher you go, the more natural it's going to fall. Hold down the shutter, spray the water, watch it fall. You guys see that in the background? You can keep applying if you want. And then I like to still let it fall because you never know. Sometimes you might get some like remnants water in the background. Here it is with a low shutter speed. Here he is with a high shutter speed. Feel free to color correct or adjust whatever you need to in your programs, and if you want to keep adjusting lights, you can achieve some different effects as well. You can use a little bit of atmosphere aerosol to give it more of a haze as well. Hope you guys enjoyed that brief little tutorial. If you use this method for any of your toy photos going forward, please tag me on Instagram at FinDeets, and I'd love to see what you were able to cook up. Now let's get back to the main video. I think that if you can buy this figure for retail and you like Bale's Batman, he is easily one of the best values in a Batman figure, period. For the deluxe version, the price was like $85 before shipping, and to me, that is a steal for what you're getting here. What it lacks in articulation, it easily makes up for in detailed sculpting, beautiful paint apps, and just an incredible presence compared to other Batman figures. As I mentioned previously, I don't own any other versions of Nolan's Batman, but here's the InArt next to some other Batman I have and love. When it comes to looks, he's on another level. These figures can't even compare. However, my ideal comic Batman is an acrobatic one, so the Mafex still might be my favorite. But for a live action figure, I have never seen anything like this at this scale. With this InArt Batman being as incredible as it is, and costing roughly the same as most import Batman figures, I'm very curious to see how this affects the approach other companies will take with their figures. Do I think Mafex, Figuarts, or Mezco are going to incorporate hyper-detailed sculpts into their new Batman toys? Probably not. But that's not to say these companies haven't tried. As much as I adore this Mafex Battinson, when it comes to detail, there's just no comparison. And with a newcomer creating this figure as their first outing, and at a similar price point, I wonder if the other companies will have to step up and try and match this quality. Unlike companies like CT Toys that are essentially decent bootlegs, this Batman is fully licensed and original, and is a must-have for any Batman collector, honestly. Whatever face printing technology InArt is using, Metacom needs to implement ASAP. I would love to see a Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield likeness that looks this good. The new photos from San Diego Comic-Con of their Robert Pattinson Batman look amazing, and if they keep up this level of quality, I can see myself buying every Batman figure this line puts out. I love this figure, and I want to know, what has your experience been buying third-party figures? Are you going to, or have you given InArt a try? Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.